Welcome yet to another episode of Blocks and Barriers with me, Tracy, the health coach. Today, I'm excited. I have a special guest with us. We have Fidel Namisi, a writer, producer, novelist, author. He's been nominated for the South African Writers Guild Award and has won it twice. He's won the Kalasha Award for Best Original Screenplay, twice been a multi-choice Vuka Award finalist, once listed as one of the top 40 producers to watch. And his success started even as a student, where he was voted most promising student, best student, proceeding to the final year of drama. So I'm so excited to welcome Fidel to the show. Welcome, Fidel.
Hey, Tracy, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So you've had so much success even as a student. What do you feel your success is attributed to?
Number one, to God and God's gifts. God gives his gifts to people very generously, and then it's on us to try and use them to benefit other people and then give them back to him by benefiting other people. So a lot of it's got to do, and part of those gifts of God were my parents and my teachers, who gave me a lot of good example and a lot of encouragement and a lot of just telling you the right things at the right time. I've been very lucky in that respect, to have great parents, great teachers, always have a great support structure. I'm the kind of person who has no excuses. I can't give excuses.
Excellent. So you found you're based in South Africa. What made you end up in South Africa? What took you to South Africa?
So I came to South Africa to study, because when I was in Kenya, I did not. At the time when I was growing up in Kenya, I really wanted to pursue a degree or do film production as a profession. And it was it was always a thing. Although now my mind has changed. At that time, it was always like a big thing, like you have to study, you have to get a degree about this line of work, etc., etc. And so at that time in Kenya, there's just no one who was like offering it as like a course in a serious way. So especially not at the university degree level. But then I got an opportunity, so I started hunting around, started looking around. Then of course, you look to the places like the States, etc., and then you see the fees there, and you're like, now I understand why people start saving even for college, even before their kids are born, they start saving for college. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So South Africa was like, South Africa is like, it's got a very old film industry, more than 100 years old. It's got a good track record in terms of film production and facilities and study facilities, etc. So I was lucky enough to get a loan and a scholarship. So combined with those two things, I was able to come this side and begin studying. And then I made a lot of friends, made a lot of connections, started working. Even before I finished university, I'd already started working, which was awesome. Again, that was one of those bits of advice which I'd received from a good teacher who said, listen, dude, like, never spend your holiday at home chilling. Never do that, ever. Like, always spend your holidays working. Like, just hustle and keep trying to look for work in your holidays. So I put that into practice, and I was lucky enough to actually be able to get a job before I finished school. So, and that also helped with money, So I was working as a screenwriter before I finished school, in my second last year of university, and from there I just kept on working.
Yeah, amazing. And I know for many, living abroad is not easy. So for you, how is that journey settling into a new country at such a young age?
I don't know if I was that young, okay. Yeah, in a weird way, it's like everyone now, the average age of the world is going up. So maybe at the time when I came to South Africa, I was 21. And at that time, I thought, man, you're pretty old, Fidel. But now I look at 21-year-olds and they're like, anyway, let's not do that. Having said that, though, I think a lot of it has to do with a community, finding a community so that one doesn't feel alone. And there's a difference between feeling alone and feeling lonely, I think, in my opinion. Why? Because, so for instance, if I'm binging one of my favorite series, I don't feel lonely, but man, I'm alone. You know what I mean? If my entire life is just binging or doom scrolling on my phone, I may not feel lonely, but I think I'd be pretty much alone. So that's my opinion, and how I think. I think these two concepts are not exactly the same. So I think it's really important not to be alone. Everyone goes through loneliness, but you don't have to be alone all the time. And I think one thing that really helps, just in life in general, is having brothers, sisters, friends, family, having that community. Because yeah, as it says in Genesis, man was not meant to be alone. You know,
Exactly.
man was not meant to be alone. Yeah.
Yeah. And how has your career evolved through the years?
Lots of ups and downs, lots of ups and downs,
Mhm.
and it's yeah. I was very lucky because right at the start, like I told you that I started working even before I finished university, so I sort of had like beginner's luck in my career, and it was and then getting jobs, winning awards and stuff, get very excited. And I don't know if it's something that changes inside or something that changes around you, but it's almost as if, um, yeah, there comes a point where, at least for me, it's like, yeah, you know what, the awards and the accolades, even the money, I'm sorry to say,
Mhm.
are like a very dissatisfying reason for working. So, like, one thing, a very funny thing that that struck me, that keeps coming back to me when I speak to, because with men, we've got this thing about, we place a lot of value on how much you earn. I don't know how it is for women, but for men it's definitely that you place a lot of value on how much you earn. And I still remember, I still know that one of the times when I hated the work I do the most. And as a screenwriter, one of the worst thing, everyone says, hey, it's so cool, it's so cool, it's so cool. And I remember there was a time I was working on a soapy, and I was earning the most money I've ever earned. Like it was good money. It was very good money, very steady. Because you see, when you're a screenwriter as a freelancer, it's like a lot like being a farmer.
Mhm.
So you sow your seed, you pray that the rain comes. If there's rain, fantastic, you get a bountiful harvest. But you never know when the next rain's gonna come. If rain's gonna fail next year because of climate change or whatever.
Mm.
So you store a lot of it in silos. You store a lot of it in silos, and you hope that things are going to work out the next year. But if they don't, you've got a lot of stuff in storage. So it's a lot like, that's the life, at least, of a freelance screenwriter, until you become a staff writer, when you're working on like a big show and you've got steady pay. And I remember I was working on a big show and I had steady pay and it was good money, but man, I hated that work. I hated it so much. It was so like, I don't know. Um, I guess the show itself was cool, but maybe it was just like, it didn't suit me, it didn't align with me. So I keep telling people, yeah, I keep reminding myself that the time when I earned the most money in terms of being a writer was the time I was least happy. It's so
Mm.
such a weird, like, anyway.
Yeah.
But so that's just something which it always just comes back to my mind whenever the thought comes that, hey man, I'd be so happy if I was earning like so much money. And one thing I've realized is, as in the immortal words of Christopher the Notorious B.I.G. Wallace, more money, more problems. More
Exactly.
problems. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So then
yeah.
I think you mentioned you transitioned from being, was it a producer to a screenwriter or the other way
Yeah,
around?
yeah, I transitioned so I started as a screenwriter,
Mhm.
and then I became a producer, and then I went back to screenwriting.
Mhm.
And I became a producer more for the sake of having control over making sure that what you write gets produced. So, you've got this brilliant idea. So the way it works is, you can have a great idea about a story. You love it, you think it's awesome, you shop it around, no one wants to do it because everyone wants to do their own story. And then they're like, hey, you're a good writer. Why don't you come and work for me and write this thing? Then you're like, okay, I need the money, I gotta pay the bill. So you do it. And then you do it over and over and over. Then you start to realize, man, I've got this stockpile of stuff which I want to do, but no one wants to do because everyone wants me to do their stuff.
Mhm.
And then you're like, okay, cool. Let me produce. So I started producing. But then I realized that, yeah, producing is so the problem with the word producing is it's very equivocal. It's got multiple meanings, and it's not it doesn't just have one meaning. So when someone says producer, you got to ask what kind of producer, what exactly is the job description. And so when one is there's a kind of producer whose job is to go to meetings, pitch ideas, convince people that a script is worth doing, and make sure money lands in the bank account so that the cameras can start rolling and people will get paid. Then you've got another kind of, then you've got another role of producer, which is to ensure that the outflows of money are always less than the inflows of money. In other words, by the time you finish, you're making a profit on that project, because most of the time, if you go into a loss on a project, it's like building a house for someone. It's like building a house for someone. They come and tell you, listen, you're a contractor, build this house for me. Here's X amount. So you try to make it for 0.9x, so that you walk away with 0.1x as your profit. Now, if you for some reason someone is stealing, one of the construction workers is stealing, or it starts raining and you can't build, and so people are sitting around not working, but you still have to pay them because they can't do other work. Any one of those things, part of that, you someone does a shoddy job, and the architect comes and says, or the engineer comes and says, pull this down, do it again. And they're not giving you extra money because you messed up. So you make a loss. It's very similar with that second role of being a producer. You have to make sure that things are being done properly, no one is stealing, you're keeping on schedule, keeping to budget, so that at the end of the day, you do not make a loss. And so I found myself playing in both roles, pitching for work, working with other writers, developing talent, coming up with new ideas, going out and pitching, making sure money gets into the bank account, then managing that money, making sure you don't make losses. And I just realized, yo, man, that second role, that's just not for me. Because I think that I'm an ambivert. What does that mean? I think that I've got a mixture of introverted and extroverted qualities. One thing I know for sure is that if I'm around too many people for too long, it kills me. Like I look at first ADs, first assistant directors, with tremendous respect and awe, because so the first AD on a set, on a film set, their job is to wrangle human beings. They're the guys who typically walk around with a loudspeaker. I know the stereotype is as the director has a loudspeaker. No, it's
Yeah.
usually the first AD. Hey guys, okay, so we need everyone to get into costume now. Okay, cool. We're breaking for lunch, and we're gonna be back in 20 minutes. Okay, cool. Now everyone needs to be on this side, or like they're moving huge amounts of people in a film set, one place and another, and they're always interacting with people. And if one actor is late because they overslept, it's the first AD who has to do a new schedule and say, okay, cool, we'll film these scenes that don't have that act. And then when they get back here, we'll bring that thing. And then their life is chaotic and they're always interacting with human beings. And for some people, that's the best thing ever. For me, it's like the worst thing ever. I just need, yeah, I just realized, yo, you know what? I have to, in fact, there's a book I read by Seneca, the Roman state philosopher, not statesman, philosopher. Anyway, but one thing he said in a letter he wrote to a friend of his was, "You have to decide relatively early in life, or in the middle of your life. You have to decide whether you are cut out for an active life or you're cut out for a life of study." A man has to make that choice. He has to get to this level of self knowledge and make that choice. And I don't know, man. I just realized, I did this active life thing of like, you're out on set, you're up and down, you're interacting with millions of people. And man, I really respect the people who can pull that off, but it's not me. It's not me. So that's one of the reasons why I just stepped away from producing. I
Yeah.
realized, you know what? Unfortunately, or fortunately, let me focus on the writing thing. Uh, and then maybe if producing happens again in future, if I can find the perfect partner who is that kind of person, the one who can wrangle human beings and is energized by other being around people and interacting with hundreds of thousands of people, that's a perfect partner for me. Gotta find that human being and work with them really closely for the rest of my life, but I haven't found them yet.
Okay, so it's still an ongoing search.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So then I can imagine the role or the roles as a producer or even maybe as a screenwriter, long hours, and maybe when you're in your creative space, you want to keep going. So how can the two different roles have an impact on your health and well-being?
Oh man, like it can that stuff like the reason why. So there's this stereotype that people in the entertainment industry, especially TV and film, are druggies. Yeah, there's that stereotype. Everyone does drugs, and look, there's some truth to it. There's some truth to it. Like I've been on film productions where you just knew that so and so is an addict, or so and so just came out of rehab, or so and so is like yeah, and there've been times when you put it on people's contracts. If you're found in possession or on or using whatever, you're fired immediately. And you won't find that in a employment contract of someone at a call center. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen them, but I doubt you'd find it there, or a real estate agent. The reason is because when someone is like, let's say you watch a film like I don't know, John Wick 4, where they have this fight on a staircase leading up to, I think it's a cathedral or something in a church in Paris. It's this epic, I mean, it's one of the best action sequences I've seen in my life. But it's like 20 minutes, they're just fighting going up a staircase, and it's at night. Now, to pull that off, those guys, I haven't seen the production schedule, but you can be sure they did not shoot in one night. They
Mm,
shot over a series of nights. And to pull that off, that means like you're going to sleep at, you're probably waking up at like, I don't know, 5 p.m. You're shooting from like as soon as it gets dark, so maybe 8 p.m. You're shooting all the way through until 4 5 a.m. You get home. You're getting home at 5 a.m., right? And then you sleep. Then you wake up the next day, and
yeah.
that's great if you're okay. Let's say you're working night shift. So call it
Mhm.
night shift. But then after you've done that for like 5 days, all of a sudden it shifts, and it told you, listen, you've got one day off. Then it's back to day shift.
Mm,
Most film sets, you're working 12, like the standard on a film crew, whether you're shooting day or night, is 12 hours. So it's always 12 hours. It's not 8 hours like
mhm,
other jobs, always 12 hours. So when human beings are being pushed like that, to that extent, man, it takes a toll on their mental health and their emotional health. So some people, obviously start taking something to like just get through it. It's like being a musician. You know the way they say like musicians, most of the time, like musicians start using drugs is when they go on a tour, like a
yeah.
concert tour, and you're one stage and another and another and another and another. It's a similar thing. It's a similar thing. That level of stress is not good. So people maybe sometimes find some unhealthy coping mechanisms. Um, but then also you just hear, yeah, so people find unhealthy coping mechanisms. It takes a toll on people's health. People, I mean, more than once you just hear of someone a film crew member who just like passes away weirdly. Yeah, they just had a short illness and they died. They're like, dude, what happened? This girl's so healthy. They're like, nah, man, his liver gave out, his organs gave out, and the dude's young. They're like in their 40s. And
Mm, mm,
okay, cool. Anyway, but yeah, so it does take a huge toll
yeah.
on people's well-being. It does,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
It's a very
And
tough one.
it is, yeah. And so for yourself, having seen had all those stories, what are some of the things you've learned that you're now trying to apply for yourself?
Well, number one is to lead a more settled life, that's for sure.
Mhm.
So I know that that's one of the reasons why I left producing and focused more on writing, because yeah, that frenetic lifestyle is just it's not conducive, because at the end of the day, what I realized was, I got hospitalized in 2018, um, and I attribute it to burnout. It was like a
Mhm.
form of burnout. I spent a week in hospital, and as I was staring at that white hospital ceiling, I just thought to myself, it doesn't make sense to make money for doctors. Because at the end
Mm.
of the day, that's what it comes down to. It's like I'm working so that, and yo, my doctor, man, that dude, I saw his bill. He comes to your bed and he's there for like 3 minutes, and then you get the bill, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
3 minutes?
how?
Dude, this dude spent 3 minutes asking me, how are you feeling today, Mr. Namisi? Oh, okay, okay. And then it's gone. It's like 2 minutes max. You see the bill, you're like, whoa. And then this, okay, please book a follow up with my receptionist, blah blah blah. Then you ask, okay, when can I see the doctor next for the follow up? Next month he's away on holiday. Then he'll be back, and then he'll be away on another holiday. They're like, whoa, these guys. And I saw his car. Then I was like, whoa. So basically, I'm
You're paying.
I'm breaking my back so that this guy can lead that lifestyle. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not doing that anymore. It's all right. It's all right. I'm not gonna enrich other people off the sweat of my back. No ways. So yeah, so after that, I just made some changes. I mean, number one thing which I realized I have to do is I started taking exercising much more seriously.
Mhm.
Exercise and sleep are two things which I take absolutely seriously. Like, I have a saying I keep. So I've got like I told him, I'm like plugged into a big community of people. A lot of them are young people who I meet, and then like I see how the lifestyles they lead and how they like sleep so little. And I keep telling them, guys, there are only three reasons why a grown man should go to sleep late. Only three reasons. Number one is a baby. Number two is a sick person. And number three is an all night prayer vigil. There is no fourth reason why a grown man should go to sleep late. Ah, no, I was binging this series. Oh man, you can't believe, the third season of this show. Dude, I couldn't stop. I'm like, and then you see them the next, and you're like, what? What? Oh, you look like a zombie. What happened? Nah, there's this show, man. There's this show. like, dude, why do you look like you didn't sleep? Oh no, I had a deadline. I had a deadline. How long did you know about this deadline? Bro, you know what it's like. It's like, no, I don't know
Mhm.
what it's like. There's no reason why a grown man should not be getting enough sleep,
Yeah,
unless it's a baby, a sick person, or an all-night prayer vigil in church. You've got no reason why you shouldn't be getting
yeah.
enough sleep, man. Come on, come on. And those are things which I guess people have to learn that the hard way. I remember, I mean, there was a time I had to go to, like, even before I got hospitalized, I went to like two doctors because I was just having such difficulty breathing. I was having such difficulty breathing. And then they were like, no, they run a few tests, you pay money, they run tests. And then at the end of the day, they ask you, like, I don't know, are you anxious about anything? Are you getting enough sleep? And at the time we were shooting two TV shows at the same time. And I was trying to make sure that none of the wheels come off either.
Yeah.
And then you have like just shallowness of breath, and it's hard to sleep at night. And you get to bed, but it's hard to sleep because you're just thinking, now will my phone ring at 4 a.m. and I'll be told that there's this actor or actress who's sick, and so we gotta make another plan. It was not a cool life. Yeah, so one of the things I realized is, number one, sleep. Number two, exercise. Number three, eating. Gotta eat very healthily. If I was to put them in order, I would say number one is sleep. Number two is exercise. Number one is sleep. Number two is food. Number three is exercise.
Yeah.
And the exercise for me is, well, every day I try to walk for at least half an hour every day,
Mhm.
and then at least 3 times a week I do like a proper workout. Sometimes, if I'm lucky, it's 4 times. When I was younger, it used to be 5 times, but then
Mhm.
the years catch up. And
Yeah.
you start to feel it. You can't do it as much as you used to. Yeah, but yeah. So definitely, but sleep is the
Yeah.
big,
Sleep is
big.
key. So for you, for men, there's this the stereotype that not well, men struggle to seek help. So for you, what's motivated you to then go to the doctor, then, just explain your symptoms? Because not many men do that.
Mm, I don't. I think I was a lot of it was being nagged by people. So people see you and they're like, "Hey, Fidel, you should go see a doctor with this thing." "No, I'm all right." "Hey, you should go see a doctor." "Nah, I don't need a doctor." "Hey, you should go see a doctor." And that's one of the reasons why being part of a community is really important,
Yeah,
because when you hear something from one person and another person and another person and another person,
yeah,
then you take a step back and you're like, "Hey, oh, you know what? Actually, maybe they've got a point here. Maybe there's something that I need to look into." Because if you're just alone, like one person living life, and then let's say your world of people around you is very very small, very very small. Let's say it's just you and your wife and one child, and that's it. And you rarely see other people, you rarely see your friends, or you don't have any friends who you interact with. Because the other thing about meeting people physically is, if you're chatting with someone on WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, they don't see you, they don't see that your eyes are red. So they can think you're okay. But when you're meeting people physically and they look at you, they're like, "Man, what's up with you? You're like, you look haggard, you look wasted. What's going on? Are you okay?" And then it's someone else and someone else and someone else and someone else. And it's not just your wife who you're like, "I'm used to being nagged by this woman all the time." Then you're like, "Okay, maybe there's a point here. Maybe I should look into this." So I think that's one of the reasons why, being actively involved in a community is a good thing. It's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah. And maybe the last question is, a lot of people are considering career moves and career changes, but they hesitate. So for someone who's trying to make an adjustment to their role or their career, but they're worried about the financial side of things, what would be your encouragement to them? Or what
Uh,
should you consider?
wow, every case is different. But one
Yeah.
thing which I've seen for sure is, I don't know anyone who has had. Uh, I don't know anyone who's lived a long life and has always had stable pay throughout that entire life. Just doesn't exist. Like, people get fired, people get retrenched, companies downsize. It's so I don't know. So of course every case is different. A balance must be struck.
Mm.
One thing which I think is, and it's easier when you're younger, because you've got fewer dependents and fewer responsibilities, so that's the time to make bigger moves and take greater risks. But as one gets older, I think it becomes more important to. I once came across a quote by James Cameron, the guy who made Avatar and Titanic, and his best film yet, Judgment Day, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, James Cameron's masterpiece. Um, and he said, "Failure is an option, fear is not." Failure is an option, fear is not. And those are words which I try to to remember over and over, because at the end of the day, like, I think especially as one gets older, one's default setting becomes fear. Like, it's the default setting. So it's not as though you have to work. And when you're younger, your default setting is risk. So I think when you're younger, you have to rationally and make a deliberate effort to work against taking needless risks, being brash. You have to, and being irresponsible. You have to work against that. Like, you have to be like, "Okay, let me be reasonable, let me be rational, and let me not be rash about this." Okay, cool. Then I think as one gets older, the default setting changes from being a risk taker to being risk averse. So now your mind has to be like, "Okay, cool. I see that emotion of fear. Whereas when I was younger, my emotion was rashness, but now I'm older, the default emotion is fear. And now my mind has to be like, "Okay, let's take this fear and let's try and work with it and make it into courage." So So I do think that, I mean, every case is different, but definitely when one is younger, it's more rashness. When one is older, it's more fear. And both cases, I think one just needs to find a way to develop courage in the face of both extremes. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm conscious of the time. It's been lovely. Is there any project that you have that you want us to know? How can we connect with you?
Well, if you want to connect with me, the best thing you can do is visit my website, where you'll find a lovely free book waiting for you. And once you download that free book, you'll join my email newsletter. And then from there, you'll get an email from me from time to time, letting you know about updates and what I'm working on and what's coming up, etc. Because I don't actually do social media, because I, social media doesn't do me. So it's not that I don't do social media. Social media refused to work with me, with my personality.
I love that. Here's some of his books. So you can scan the QR code and get the books. They're on Amazon. So 3 lovely titles: Man of Stone and Shadow, Luanda Magere Adventure. And then we have Stick Fighter, and we have Love Back. So you can scan those QR codes. It will take you directly to Amazon, where you can purchase the books, whether hard copy or on Kindle. I'll just let you see those QR codes and scan them. And I'll also put the link in the description on the YouTube description. So as always, before we end the show, there's always the stage where we identify any of the barriers that are keeping us from the health that we want. And most importantly, the first steps in overcoming these barriers. So before you go, stay tuned for the next section of Identify and Overcome. Thank you so much, Fidel, for your time. I wish you all the best. And yes, I'll share the details of your the website, and then people can catch up with you on your newsletter.
Great stuff. All right.
Thank you so much. Take care, Fidel. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care of yourself.